Hello one and all, and thank you for finally joining me for some more D24 stuff. What I got on the bench here is the injection pump. Now what I got planned for today is really just taking this thing apart. I'd like to do an mTDI swap one of these days with a different motor, different stuff, but kind of critical to that, I need to know what's in these injection pumps. These things are pretty complicated, and it's not good to just crack into one as like your first time thinking you're gonna make something. So I've got this one right here. For all intents and purposes, the D24 project is dead. I bought that thing intending to do a swap for it, and the swap fell through. I ended up on a different project. So this injection pump isn't gonna be used for the foreseeable future, like years. So I'm gonna crack into it just to see that I can get a little bit of a look-see inside one of these things, the injection pumps. I did take a 1.6D apart one long time ago, but I didn't film it, didn't do anything. This time we got it on the bench, we got it on camera, and we're gonna take a look at this thing. I've done some pretty pretty extensive research on this thing. So here we go. Now the first thing we're gonna do is get this lever off. This is a 10mm, and everything has been pre-PB blastered. We got a line here on the shaft, and we got some lines on the lever. So we're gonna just score the one that lines up, so we know to match it up there when we put it back together. So lever, there's a spring. If you're doing a rebuild, there's a pretty good chance you're leaking from here. Let's see if this is it. You got the top of the pump right here, this banjo bolt. It is a 17. And don't lose these crush washers. It's hard to tell what's going on in there. But I'm gonna turn this over in my drain pan and empty it out. I'm gonna leave the camera on the stand here. It was pretty hard to get set up, and I'll be back. Okay, we got a 5mm Allen here. We're gonna pop this cover off. This one doesn't have a boost aneroid, so it should come off pretty easy. It doesn't have a lot of crazy stuff going on here. Okay, there we go, there's the top. And we're going to try to push this lever pivot down. And we don't want to get it too far off of there because it is still connected. There we go. There's the top of our pump. Here's one of the fuel screws. Here's the shutoff. You can see what that does is it just pushes against this thing here. This lever here basically does everything. You can think of this as a throttle lever, and just about everything in this mechanism is either pushing it or pulling it for throttle. And that's what makes it work. This is just held on by a teeny tiny little circlip. Trying not to get in the way of the camera here. Don't let that get away from you. Now you got a couple of springs loose. I'm gonna grab these 3 pieces right here and lift the whole thing up. Now I'm getting that put together immediately. There we go. Now that that's together, it won't escape on me. Here's one of the O-rings that you might be replacing right here. Now it is time for the governor flyweights. We're going to be taking this bad boy off. If you look down in here, there is a shim. Oh, you can see them moving a teeny bit. Shim and a washer. That's a little weird. I didn't know it would do that. We're gonna pop this bad boy off. There is a 5mm Allen here. And then, what are you? You look 15-y to me. $14. Alright, we're going to take this bugger out. It's retaining nut, and it's got a washer on it. Now the depth of this bad boy is set, so you're going to want to count the turns of it coming out, or you're going to want to measure it. Okay, I'm going to do both. $7.74mm it protrudes. Let's give it one more time. Call it 7.75. Grab this. One, 2, 3, 16, okay, I think I was caught on some threads. I believe that could have come out much sooner. That's why we did both. All right, let's take these flyweights out. Here we go. This is part of our governor here. I want to store it up like this and keep track of it. It is possible for all these things to fall out. Now, before those shims decide they want to drop in too, I'm just going to hook them both up. Oh, these are pretty stuck together. That's good. So this is the orientation. Round goes that way. Square goes that way. Future me. All right, now it's time to pop this little 3-sided bolt off. It's probably gonna be really on there. Nope, not too bad. Now, part of one of the health checks of things we do when we stick this thing back together, once that's off, we want to get the K dimension. And to do that, we're going to go from this lip right here down to, oh, the name totally escapes me. I want to say it's the plunger, but that's not it. So from here down there. This is 3.47. Seems really high. And I rotated the shaft around just to see that it was at the bottom of its stroke, and it in fact was. So if we put it back together, we got to check that dimension. Now it's time to pop these up. These are star drive Torx bits. T30s. Okay, these fasteners are not the same. The ones with the large head face here and here. The ones with the smaller head are here and here towards this cold start advance. So we're going to pull 2 of these off, and there are springs behind here, not enough for it to fly all over the place, but enough that you don't want to loosen just one at the very last. So there we go. Here's our 2. Okay. When we do our mTDI swap eventually, this is going to be one of the pieces we keep, the larger direct injection head. This one is an IDI, indirect injection, and sometimes looks like they have extra springs in the head. They'd be like here and here. So we just got to watch out for those when we pull this thing off. Come on, Mr. Head. Plunger's trying to come up with me. I should really looked up what it was called. I had a catalog, I thought. Okay, there we go. Here's these 2 parts. And it looks like you can see that's where our 2 springs sat. So grab those before they go. Have fun in here. And I'm setting those right into the head. And now I should be able to pull out the plunger. Here there's like the main throttle, or uh-oh, I touched it. I touched it. Should have probably taken that all up at once if I could have. Okay, thankfully the other one is good. So we got this washer. So we got the one shaped like a hat, and then the flat one's on top of that. I'm just going to snag that right off of this other one. Now fish the whole thing off. This is connected to our throttle lever, so we got to move that out along with it. And up she comes. Here's our 13mm 3-point out of that kit. We're going to take the throttle lever off. I believe there's a washer under this. Let's get that other one first. One, and it looks like it does have a little copper washer. Let's pick it out of there so it doesn't go walkabouts. Cut through the other side. Okay, I had a careful eye on those. It's more important to not drop this lever. Fish it out through the main bore. This is our throttle lever. All right, now down here we have our cam plate. This is another thing that's going to come off of the TDI when we finally do our build. This is actually what drives everything. This is where we get our up and down motion. Boop, 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 boop. Because it works like a little roller coaster around here. Isn't that fun? All right, I'm also taking note of which way there's a little pin on it, where that's facing right now. Now we got a spring down in here. Got a main spring. I don't know why I called that a mainspring. It is a spring. Then we have this little drive gear. Extremely confused. I thought that at the bottom of this there was a shim, but I don't see a shim. So this is as far into the main body as we would need to go for the TDI rebuild. So this is also something that would need to be replaced, this little gear. This one with the spring, from what I understand, is like an IDI style, and plunger springs for the TDI are enough that you don't need this little extra spring. So pretty much from here on up, everything we've taken out, minus like the mechanical lever and stuff, that would all be TDI when we finally do the mTDI build. It's time for another specialty tool. This is the reverse double D shaft. Nobody believes me when I said that. At work one time I said I need a double D shaft, and the guy thought I was crazy. Wouldn't Google it either. But that goes on the front here. This one has got the electric cold start advance, and there's a hard line that runs from the pressure regulator up here over to the advance, and we need to pull all that out, because another thing that we need for the TDI and the mTDI is the advance. That is all this part right here. The TDI has a much more aggressive advance on it, so we need to pull that out as well. But for this one, we got to take this cold start advance off and the regulator, because it's all hooked up together. We won't need to do this on the true build. Ooh, wouldn't you know it, having the right tools makes life easy. Here we go. There might be a sneaky little spring in there still. Are you in there, sneaky little spring? I guess not. So it wasn't metric. This little line, it's 5/16. Here it comes. Put that with the regulator. It's time to grab our T30 again. This this piece right here that's got the advance assembly, that's another thing that's spring loaded. It's always just like pump pressure versus springs, and that's what moves all these rollers around. So we want to be careful to do things evenly. In fact, I might even go so far as to get a clamp on these, just to keep the springs in. Okay, that one's staying on, which makes me think it might be a little bit sticky-stucky. Because this one is pulling off. Okay, there we go. Looks like this side does not have any spring pressure. Now the TDI, this would be convex. It would have a little bulge in it, and that's to have more advanced action. The direct injection boys get much more advanced than the IDI ones. All right, now we're just gonna squeak this back one off. Just pushing it in. It's a fairly weak spring. You can move it by hand. So it's not going to be dangerous. The only dangerous thing is really going to be that all your stuff flies everywhere and you'll lose it. Those long bolts. All right, now we're going to slowly let off of this timing advance. Be careful of springs. There's our spring. From what I understand, some of these advances have compound springs. Oh, something else fell out. Looks like there was a washer up in there. So keep that in mind. Watch for the washer as well. Feels like there's a back washer in there too. Ta-da! So a washer on either end of the spring. All right, now there is still a pin right here that is holding the barrel of this, or the piston of that advance out. It's got a little retaining clip on it, a black clip. See it right there? We're gonna go and snag them. How do you get so far? That thing made quite the journey, but here it is. Now, on top of that, that retainer was holding in a pin. We're going to pull the pin. That's not spring loaded. It can't escape. Put it there. And then grab this thing and shove it towards the middle of the pump. Looks like our drive gear is in the way. We're just going to rotate it a teeny bit to get it out of the way. There we go. Note, future me, I rotated this. Let's just grab that. All right, there it goes. You can see we sort of went over the wall there. Now we're going to bring it into the middle of the cage. There we go. Now I should be able to push, whoops, the rest of this advance out. I'm a little curious which side it wants to escape from. Ugh. Okay, it's just really stiff, huh? There we go. Oh, looks like something else wants to fall out. So here we go. There was our pivot right there. The pin stuck in here. And this piston was what rocked back and forth. Rocked the cage and our rollers back and forth. That's what got some of our timing advance. Let's pull this little joker out. And there we go. That is disassembled. That is as disassembled as we will get for our mTDI rebuild. I'd say that wasn't bad, but that was the easy part, you know. So, what are we doing and what are we replacing for our mTDI? I know I kind of said some things along the way, but let's start off what we were doing last. First thing, we're going to be replacing that timing advance. That's this part, this little plunger and the backing plate with the TDI one. We're going to replace this little drive gear and get rid of its spring. We're going to replace this entire assembly, the head and plunger assembly, and we're not going to be including these two little springs. We're going to be building this into a 1.6 pump. Oh no, a 1.6 pump. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people say things that you can't use the 1.6 pumps because they have a tiny main shaft that's 17 millimeters instead of 20. But I'm just going to put a 10 millimeter head on it. It's not going to be the big one. I'm not trying to make tons of power. I really just want, if I could get 100 horsepower TDI, I will be a happy man. And that's a very manageable goal. Another thing I should mention is this lever. I've seen quite a few things where people are saying that you need to modify this lever. I don't know if that's a myth or not, just hearsay, but it might just be to unlock like 100% of the mTDI power. You need to do that, but I'm really just looking for a good daily driver, not trying to break the bank or do anything crazy. Another thing to mention is that this injection pump has just a standard head. I actually have our 1.6 here. Here you go, here's the 1.6. This has got the boost aneroid on it, so when we actually make boost, it'll be able to adjust our fueling. So this cold start advance doesn't usually work well with the TDIs. It tends to come up with problems. I guess it's not quite as strong as the TDI setup would demand for its advance. So we're not going to include it. We'll just do whatever. I'm planning to have this just be like a summer car, so we won't have to worry too much about cold start. And we'll just make up the difference with something like a block heater if we really have to use it for some emergency. Well, there we go. There is our D24 6-cylinder injection pump taken apart as much as it would need to be to presumably build up an mTDI. I'm a little bit worried where that shim is. I feel like it really should be there. I know that's one of those critical points and it's kind of strange to have missed. So I'm gonna review the video, see if something escaped. I don't think it's this. See if something escaped. See if it's just not there. See if I'm just dumb. Maybe this pump never had it, but I want to be sure I know what I'm doing when I finally break into these. But at the very least, I'm gonna cobble this together and do a nice video for you, and for me as well. It's gonna really help on my other teardown, and probably off camera I'm gonna put this thing together just to confirm that I can. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Hope this video was informative, and have a good one.